Hi, Councillor Renton. You're good to start.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Communities and Local Services Scrutiny. The time is just after 10 on Thursday, the 27th of August, in case you were wondering. Now we have a full room today with a lot to get through, so before we start, I'd just like to say that we're going to go on until we've completed the whole agenda, no matter how long it takes. So if you have to leave for another engagement, don't worry about just ducking out. So we'll start with introductions and attendance at meeting. This is going to be a long one, so we'll start with councillors in the community's scrutiny. Councillor Allen.
Yes, hello.
Councillor Barch. Councillor Cousins.
Yes.
Councillor Mrs. Cully.
All present and correct.
Councillor Donahue, we've received apologies for. Councillor Durham.
Good morning, everyone.
Councillor Heseldine. Councillor McCollum.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, colleagues.
Councillor Renton, present. Councillor Tate. Councillor Wallace.
Good morning, Chair.
Now we've invited Economy and Resources Scrutiny members who are not obliged to attend, but they can if they wish, so I'll go through those names. Councillor Boddy. Councillor Cruddas.
Morning, Chair.
Good morning. Councillor Harker. Councillor Hughes, Linda Hughes. Councillor Doris Jones, we've received apologies for. Councillor McEwen.
Present, Chair. Chair, apologies if I need to leave at 11:15. I've got childcare issues.
Not a problem. Councillor Paley. And spectating councillors, we have Councillor Lee. I know he's here somewhere.
Sorry about that. Good morning.
Morning. Okay, so we have two attending portfolio holders this morning. We've got Councillor Johnson.
Good morning.
Morning. And Councillor Marshall.
Good morning.
Morning. And spectating portfolio holders, we have Councillor Dulston. I can't see him in the list. So Councillor Keir.
Good morning, Chair.
Morning. Okay, officers, we have Dave Winstanley.
Morning, Chair. I'm Assistant Director of Transport and Capital Projects.
Thank you. Brian Graham.
Sorry, Chair. Good morning, Chair. Lead Officer on Scrutiny and also presenting the Tree and Woodland Strategy.
Thank you, Brian. Mark Laderman.
Morning, Chair. Mark Laderman, Assistant Director, Economic Growth.
Thank you. Graham Hall.
Good morning, Chair. Head of Community Safety presenting Contest and Prevent.
Morning. And Mike Crawshaw.
Morning, Chair. Mike Crawshaw, Head of Culture and Heritage.
Thank you. And we have an external member. We have Raymond Lynch. If you'd like to introduce yourself, Raymond.
Morning, Raymond Lynch, Managing Director of Market Asset Management.
Perfect. Thank you. Good morning. So next we have the declarations of interest. Are there any declarations? Councillor McCollum, you have your hand up.
Sorry, Chair. No declarations of interest, but I have received a message from Councillor Hazeldine. He's unable to log on at this present time.
Can we get someone onto that, please? Okay, declarations of interest? None. So we'll move on to approve the minutes of the meetings of this scrutiny. We have two to approve, so we'll start with the 9th of July 2020. Do we have any comments on those minutes? No comments. Would anyone like to propose them?
Move them, Chair.
Propose.
Move them. Okay, that's one, and seconder. Well, I'll take one of you two, both as proposed and second, and a quick show of hands, please. Okay, they've been moved. Okay, so the 16th of July, any comments from councillors? No comments. Anyone would like to move them?
I'll move.
And second?
I'll second, Chair.
Seconded.
Thank you. And show of hands, please. Okay, I'll take that. Thank you. Okay, so first presentation we have the presentation by Mark Laderman, the Assistant Director for Economic Growth on the indoor markets. I'll hand over to you, Mark. If you want to give the presentation, then we'll move to questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. As you're aware, we've got Raymond Lynch here, so it's going to be a bit of a team effort with Raymond doing the presentation on the detail of what work we are planning to do on the Victorian indoor market. Just for some members who probably weren't elected at the time, I thought it might be useful just to give a little bit of background as regards to where we've come from and where we are at this moment in time. Members who were elected in 2016-17 will be aware of the procurement and tender exercise that went out to look for an operator of the markets within Darlington. And following this exercise, Market Asset Management were identified as the favoured partner, and they commenced looking after the market very soon after the tendering exercise is complete. Within the remit of Market Asset Management is the need to effectively manage both the indoor and outdoor markets, but quite importantly is that the council at the time, quite rightly so, identified the need for quite a large amount of investment, and we felt that we needed to identify a partner who had a good track record in investing into markets throughout the country, of which MAM were identified as such, and we made available through the lease agreement a loan facility for Market Asset Management to actually draw down and invest into the indoor market. Clearly, there has been some challenges, both I suppose in relationships with the traders, but likewise in gaining various types of statutory permissions, such as planning permission, which has now been received in early 2020. But likewise, obviously, COVID-19 has also hindered the haste in which we want to employ to ensure that we invest in the market as quickly as possible. What members have been shared with is where we are at this moment in time, and this was also shared with members of Cabinet back in July time. And Raymond, together with myself, will do a presentation on some of the, I suppose, ambitions and vision that we have for the market itself. Members will be fully aware that the market is an integral part of the vibrancy of the town centre. We want to make it not just a fantastic facility for the residents of Darlington, but likewise make it very much a regional attractor for both areas in South Durham and North Yorkshire, and right across the Tees Valley, that people come to Darlington not just for the retail offer that's there within the market, but also the leisure, hospitality, food and beverage, which will be available in the very near future. So Raymond, if I can pass over to you, if you want to commence the presentation, I think that'll be, and I will share it. As I said, it's going to be a bit of a team effort on this, and I don't know, Chair, do you want to wait till the end for questions, or would you like members to just put the hand up and we'll try to answer it as we go along?
If you're comfortable taking questions during the presentation, we can do that.
Yeah, if we could ask members if they could raise their hands, and I'll be trying to be the gatekeeper on that, Chair, if that's okay.
I'm happy to point out, if you just concentrate on your presentation, I'll try butt in with anyone.
Okay,
questions.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate that. So I'll try to share it now. We've tested it once and it worked, so fingers crossed that the technology continues to work. Can members see that that presentation?
Yeah, I can see it.
So can I.
Okay. Raymond, would you like to make a start, and I'll operate it from this end.
Can I just say I may have accidentally asked to take control of your computer, so if you want to deny that.
Okay, good morning everyone. If we can just, that's obviously the header slide, so we can sort of scroll to the next one, please. Okay, at the moment the market is somewhat tired, admittedly. However, Darlington deserves something far better for a much wider sector of the demographic. At present, it caters for a very small, narrow sector of the demographic, which isn't sustainable. And by the way, this sort of presentation is so typical of what is happening throughout the UK at the moment. Next slide, please. It's all about fresh concepts. You know, there are two types of markets in the UK at the moment, in particular following COVID-19. The vast majority of the 1,200 British markets are still operated by local authorities. And, you know, I was very disappointed during the lockdown that NABMA was pretty much doom and gloom and said that a third of markets will never reopen. I'm sure a lot of you witnessed that we actually kept Darlington Market open all the way through for essential supplies, obviously mostly food, and that worked very well, as we did throughout the rest of our market portfolio. And we're actually seeing tremendous strength and growth now in what is happening. What we need to do is attract some younger people without disenfranchising our current demographic. We need to also attract some more affluent people as well, and we need to extend the trading day. Now, typically, you know, 9 till 5-ish is fine for most of the time during the week, but you'll see soon that we're going to introduce as phase one a more of a food and beverage offer, which, the way things are going at the moment, I'd imagine every sort of town in the UK is going to have one within the next few years. And this is all promoting local businesses. Okay, next one, please. So here we are, phase one. If we just go back to I've got it on here as well. We're out to tender now for phase one, which is the area you can see on the left-hand side of the drawing. That's it, with the little hand. And the plan, which is on course at the moment, is to start work early January for phase one and be open for Easter. And that will include new entrants, new toilets, new public toilets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can see them. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Food and beverage offers, and on the bottom left-hand side, a bar, and on the left-hand side, near the top, is a stage area for performances. And the big void in the middle is for communal seating. This is what is driving markets at the moment. The demand for space by really high-quality local businesses is very high as well. And we're very confident this is going to be the biggest kick up the back that we could possibly introduce into the market as phase one. The roof is currently already underway because we have a leaky roof. There we are, lots of images of scaffolding and things like that. Pretty much all of the survey work is now complete. And the plan is to have the roof spick and span, watertight by the time that phase one is launched at Easter of next year. If we can move to the next one, please. So this is the bottom right, I suppose, is a picture of Grootemarkt in Rotterdam, that is very famous, that I was involved in. The top middle is our own market in Doncaster, and that's the Wool Market. We own and operate Doncaster Market, which is pretty vast. And the Wool Market was a rather dilapidated Victorian shed, populated by very low calibre traders trading 2 days a week when they felt like it. And we transformed that into a food and beverage offer. attracting a large sector of the community and, most importantly, driving up family-orientated evening economy. They all said I was nuts. We opened 100% pre-let. We have a capacity of 500 guests in there. We start turning them away at about 8:30 on a Thursday night because we're up to capacity. We've got more space outside, and our record so far is 800 people for an evening. And it is all family-based entertainment as well. So during the day, we're going to try and attack office workers, but we want people to come into town in the evenings as well. And that will also be supported by different forms of outdoor markets. We've got the very successful peas pudding at the moment, and we'll enlarge the scope of those different specialty markets. Okay, next one, please. So we're turning what is nothing to be particularly proud of from this into, next one, into that. You can see the communal seating area. Along the top, you can see the food and beverage units. And we have to cater for the community. You know, there's no point putting in excessively priced, gently fried halloumi burgers for £20, because although they would work in the centre of Manchester and Leeds and London, that's not what we want to do here. You know, our price point in Doncaster, similar demographic, is typically for a lunch £7 or £8 for a meal and a drink. And of course that's slightly more in the evening, but we want to increase dwell time, so hopefully we'll get people to spend between £12 and £15 by the time they've had another couple of drinks as well. So that is the feeling that we want to achieve in phase one, with obviously a lot more people. Next phase, next one please. And this, obviously, again, I think you're particularly proud of, to the next slide, which is driving up the evening economy. Yes, occasionally there will be bands, but at the same time there'll be comedy club, there'll be quizzes, there'll be some andram, there'll be, for example, TV screens for, which is very popular in Doncaster, children's films on a Saturday morning, which I used to go to when I was a kid. So it's a space that will not only be curated by us, very heavily on social media, but it's also a space that's available for other organisations in the town centre. Next one, please. Phase two, as soon as we have phase one under our belts, and obviously phase one and phase two will be separated during phase one by hoardings from floor to ceiling, because there will be inconvenience and there will be noise, but going up to the ceiling will cut down on the dust. And then phase two is more of a general improvement to the rest of the market to make it far more appealing. There are some excellent fresh food retailers in there, and we'll continue to support them. We are trying to relocate some of the traders who are in phase one into phase two, although a few of them have expressed a wish to move on. But the idea is that by the time phase one opens, should be fully let. And by the time phase two opens, we should be aiming for occupancy to 80–90%. From my experience, too long I'm afraid, you can never get more than 92% because you've always got a little bit of churn. But that will certainly be our objective for Darlington, which is not the case at the moment. But the whole thing has been designed around the shoppers who currently don't go to the market. As I said, we don't want to disenfranchise current market shoppers, but they represent such a small cohort. We must attract all the people who don't feel comfortable going to the market at the moment. Okay, next one. Temperate gardens, you go to the next one again. We've gone from a more sort of Victoriana, so next slide please. We've gone from a Victoriana type temperate garden to something far more contemporary. So you can see the difference between the original market and the new. And there are examples of that in Darlington at the moment. This will be the last phase. And well, currently the vaults will end up being restaurants and bars, and the restaurants spilling out into the temperate gardens, which is a public space for people to enjoy, but also to enjoy sitting out there, obviously in all weathers, and they will be able to hear the events that are going on upstairs because the glazing will be opened. So they'll be creating this sort of whole sense of homogeneous type events. Okay, thank you. Next one. So it's a new purpose for the market, and this is the way that successful markets are going. And this is I was born into a family of market traders in the East End of London. I've always tried to get out of the industry, but now succumbed finally and saying, okay, that is it, I have to stick with it. But I spent my formative years on the continent, designing markets predominantly around the garlic belt. And in those days, traditionally in Italy, France, Spain, Portugal, fresh food markets were the place you would buy the very best food. They were certainly not exclusive. We must not become an exclusive market. We must be available for everyone and everybody's budget. And the market halls there, they blended retailing with F&B. That's what it used to be like, 30, 40, 100 years ago, probably when these markets were built. There were places for people not just to go and spend money on food and things, but also to sit down and have a drink and something to eat. This will undoubtedly increase market occupancy. We already have strong interest for the F&B offers in phase one, although we haven't started pre-letting those yet. We've generated losses since we've been there, and we'll be post-development, we'll be in a rather nice position. We might actually start earning some profits. We will start earning some profits. And it was going to become, together with the outdoor market approaching the indoor market, a real hub. I think a real hub and a footfall driver for the town centre. And as Mark sort of led on, we'll be investing 1.8 million. I think we're about £300,000 in so far, dealing with all the fees and the planning and everything and the surveys. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. And that's the presentation.
Thank you, Raymond. Do you have anything to add there, Mark?
No, Chair, just really to give members some confidence. We've been working with asset management since I've been in position for nearly 2 years now. And clearly a lot of the preparation work is very, very time consuming, as I touched on before and Raymond did with regards to obviously relationship management with stall holders, etc., which can be quite challenging. But it's something that we need to address, because what we want to do is ensure that we don't just get tacit support from the stall holders that will be remaining within the market hall, but we get a real commitment from them that they appreciate and they understand what the vision and the objectives of the market is, and also that they play an integral role in the success of that particular market. As Raymond's pointed out, I've been fortunate enough to, I'm becoming a bit of an anorak when it comes to markets. Of when I go away anyway, I always try to find the closest indoor market and take a degree of influence from that. And I think what market asset management, together with the council, is trying to do is something extremely exciting, which really sets Darlington above what any other offer that currently exists certainly within South Durham, Tees Valley and North Yorkshire. I mentioned those particular geographical areas earlier, but we want to make Darlington a real destination, so people will be travelling quite a distance to both experience what's happening within the market, both the outdoor, but more importantly the indoor, and likewise the great work that colleagues and businesses are doing throughout the town with our recovery programme from COVID-19, Chair. So it's an exciting time. It's something that I think we can all be very proud of once it's delivered, and I think this will be a real catalyst in changing the way that Darlington actually operates, Chair.
Great stuff. Thank you, Mark. So we've got plenty of people to answer questions, and I'm sure we have some questions, but just on questions, if officers say that they're not able to answer a question due to not having information at the time, from this point on we're going to give them a week to come back to councillors with some sort of reply, whether it be that they haven't got the information yet or with the answer. And I'd like them to copy in all councillors in the committee. And then after that, during the minutes of the following meeting, we will address the answers so that the public can previous committee. Okay, so we've got plenty of hands up, and I think Councillor McCullum was first, so you have the mic.
Thank you very much, Chair. And thank you for the presentation. Thank you to Mark and Raymond. It's not easy presenting over Teams, so I appreciate the smooth operation. Although if I can go back to slide 15 of said presentation, the temperate gardens and vaults. To my understanding, and certainly I've been tracking the progress of the planning application, I thought this had been omitted. And certainly looking at the delegated report from planning officers, I don't think that it's included, but correct me if I'm wrong, I thought that was removed from the, certainly it's removed from the elevations that were submitted in March. So I just appreciate some clarification on that. And further, I appreciate that you're presenting the progress of the market development as it is. I wonder if you have any figures to hand regarding the kind of current capacity of trading currently in the indoor and outdoor markets, and if there's a comparison to be made. I realise we're in the early stages of recovery, but if there's any indication of improvement. I know you certainly spoke about tremendous growth within the market, so is there anything to be said in comparing pre and post lockdown at this point? Thank you.
Chair, if I may, it's probably there's probably two answers because there's two questions. But if I can answer the first one about the winter garden, yeah, Councillor McCullum is quite correct. It isn't included within the original planning application, simply because of the I suppose the heritage sensitivities that are surrounding this, and that we wanted to crack on to be able to actually begin to deliver the internal aspects of the improvement. So Market Asset Management will be submitting a second planning application for the winter garden to get approval. Clearly, we need to work with our heritage people, Sebastian Pickles within the council, but likewise Heritage England as well. And so what we've now managed to produce is some, as you've seen through the presentation, is some depictions of what we want and what our ambitions is. It is then to share with Heritage England and our heritage officer to make sure that they are comfortable with that. As Raymond pointed out, the third phase isn't expected to commence until later next year. So we've got a lot of time to actually prepare that planning application and ensure that both members and very importantly, members of the public can have a view on what we're proposing. Because while we see that as a really exciting proposal, I'm sure as people who have ever dealt with Heritage England, they'll have a view of it as well. And so we may well have to make some minor adjustments to actually meet some of the rather heritage sensitivities that can sometimes arise on the development of such an important building. But I'll pass on to Raymond to see whether he's got any information on the present occupancy and income levels, etc.
Hello. Not to hand exactly at the moment, although occupancy is pretty low. It's less than 70%. Post development, as I said, we want to get up to between 80 and 90 and hopefully nearly 90%. And I'm going to be quite brutal in what I'm going to say now. There are different categories of traders. During the lockdown period, we were determined to try and keep the market open for essential food supplies. And we were very candid and very blunt with the traders there to say that if you want to remain open, you have to pay your rent, so that we can pay, obviously, our staff and all the rest of it to keep the place open. And to every single one of those food traders kept up to date with their rent. We started doing home deliveries, local home deliveries with our staff. And that is something we want to continue with and expand. There are, generally, the food traders describe trading during COVID-19 as like Christmas, with some of them driving all over the country, rightly or wrongly, to get various supplies. And going back to what I said earlier, Food is very important. We all are fortunate enough to eat 3 times a day. But how often do you have your shoes repaired? How often do you buy some PPE? Food is the clue to success moving forward. Generally, probably all of the food traders in that market, we have some funny characters, of course, but they're all very strong and they will rise to the occasion. The non-food traders who have habitually moaned you, the council, and us over the last few years, some of them will go. They will go because they will not rise to the occasion. They'll always find an excuse not to trade. And we're finding that to an extent with the outdoor market as well. You know, when we've started the peas pudding markets in the evening, the traders there are full of gusto. They want to earn a living, they want to make a difference, and they trade very well. Some of the others, the more regular ones, you know, we are struggling to get the regular traders back trading on the outdoor market. But we're filling the space with new casuals coming in. So you will find, and we will find, because we will drive it, traders post-development, and we're already working towards that, will become, some of them will become younger, and some of them will be far more ambitious and in tune with social media that we do, and they will continue, and they will enjoy that and chip in as well. And the calibre of trader will change dramatically over the next 12 to 18 months.
Thank you. Is any follow-up question there, Councillor? Or
Not at the moment, Chair.
okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm not sure who came up next, so I'm just going to go as it appears in my list. So we have Councillor Allen, please.
Thank you, Chair. I've got quite a few concerns. Mr. Lynch has just referred to the traders. I am concerned and have been for several years that we have lost a lot of our traders, and it isn't due to them being lazy or not wanting to trade. It's due to the fact that the rent increases were too much for their own businesses to sustain. And it was the attitude of MAM that prevented them from actually wanting to stay within that atmosphere. Secondly, I want to know, why is it taken you so long to start from 2016? And the 300,000 that you mentioned you had spent on fees, etc., where's that come from? Has that come from MAM's pocket, or has that come from the drawdown loan that was so generously offered when the tender was granted to you? Thirdly, the nighttime usage concerns me. Who is going to pay for the security that will be needed to ensure that any traders that remain, their stores and their wares are protected against vandalism or theft? Are we going to have any kind of security surrounding the music events? Don't get me wrong, I love music. I used to go to loads, but I'm concerned that your family entertainment might not turn out to be so family orientated when too much drink is involved. Do you have anything in place to ensure that if families do attend, their children won't be subjected to a load of foul-mouthed, abused, drunken yobs? I'd also like to know how you can defend, or do you take responsibility for, as has been researched, your record on other authorities whereby you have not fulfilled your obligations or your contractual requirements, and you have indeed been sacked from those authorities? I'm quite aware you don't necessarily need to answer all of those immediately, but I would like a response during the course of the meeting, please. Thank you.
Okay, I will answer all of those questions. The The rent levels in Darlington are low. They are much lower than throughout the rest of our estates and pretty lower than a national average. Secondly, the £300,000 has been largely from the drawdown. Thirdly, we are not operating a sports bar. We always supply high levels of security in person, and we will not tolerate any antisocial behaviour. In the evening time, the food and beverage offer is actually fenced off from the rest of the market. There are internal gates and things, so people cannot get into the rest of the market. Nevertheless, that's controlled by CCTV and security guards anyway, and we always include a high budget for security. Other authority examples, I'd like to know which ones you mean, please.
I'll be honest with you, I've forgotten. I'm not sure if it was Rochdale or if it was Bradford. I just know it was one of the Northwestern authorities.
I've never been involved in Bradford. Rochdale was a basket case, quite frankly. We advised the council exactly what they should do with their market, and if you research the social media properly, we actually walked away rather than being in breach of anything. They spent far too much on the project that we outlined for them, and then the whole political process became more important for them than delivering the market.
Thank you for your response.
Thank you. There was one question that you didn't answer, which was why has it taken so long to start? Raymond, sorry.
Sorry, I forgot that. It's been a long, complex process. My predecessor I'll be very honest with you, had health issues. And now I've been involved with Mark and Paul since November, and we're going full pelt.
Thank you. So next on the list I have Councillor Mrs. Cully.
Thank you, Chair. Raymond, I have seen, this is probably the third presentation of its kind that I have seen for this market since 2017. It's always been very upbeat and everything was going to be smashing, and now we're 3 years down the line and we still can't actually see anything. I know there's been work done on the roof, but what are we going to do over the next 2-3 years to make sure that people can actually see what's being done, so that there is tangible things to see? What are we going to do? Thank you.
Well, we don't have to wait 2 or 3 years. As you say, the roof works have started. Phase 1 actually starts in January and will be open by Easter. Phase 2 starts in Easter and will be open by Christmas. And then phase 3 is the year after, obviously, that we talked about the planning consent for the temperate gardens as well. We have been doing a lot of social media coverage, and we will up the ante as soon as phase 1 starts on site. There will be some disruption. I've done the same presentation to traders, so we have to be very careful. We keep the disruption down to a minimum, but there will be noise and there will be dust, and we try our very best to avoid that. But things are going very quickly now. We are now out to tender. We have 5 contractors tendering for phase 1, and then hopefully one of those will end up we'll negotiate a tender for phase 2. So things are happening. I think with the comms department, with your officers, press releases have started.
Thank you. I just think it's important that people can actually see something happening, that they know that stuff's going on behind the scenes, and that we let people know that it hasn't, well, because you can't actually see anything. That's the problem. It doesn't look as though anything's being done, and clearly stuff is being done. But we were promised that we'd have something finished by Easter this year. That was last year. We need to show that something's being done. People need to know that things are happening. So your comms, I think, as you say, are very important, that we get that information out there, that it might not look as though anything's happening, but there's no holes left in the roof, that kind of thing. Thank you.
I totally agree. Totally.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor McEwen.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Can I? My question is aimed at Raymond, and the question is this evolution or revolution? And the context of that is, I think all of us would accept that there is a need for change. The danger is, and you talked about the need to bring a new demographic into the market, but also try and maintain the existing demographic at the same time. But with the news, and I'm not sure of the detail, but I understand that there are 6 traders that are moving out to another commercial retail asset in town. It just has a feel at the moment of a bit of revolution. I don't know whether you've got any comments on that.
It's not revolution, and I'm not overly concerned. It's going back to, I think, what I said earlier, to really what sort of markets used to be like in the good old days. And now that the high street and the multiples are really struggling, we're finding through the agency business that independent trade, there's high demand for space at the moment, but not any just space. It needs to be high calibre. As part of phase 1, there are 6 traders who have had to serve notice on to move, because obviously we need phase 1 vacant possession for the contractor to start in January. The caterers, the Blackhams, have always said that they want to go anyway, and we're just in final negotiations with them. And their current offer may not be suitable for the new market. And of the others, two of them would like to leave, and they've always said they wanted to leave. And we're in negotiations with them, and the other we're trying to relocate. We've offered them actually space, particular space in the new market, where we believe they will trade very well. And I'm not, these are real people, and my parents are market traders, and I do understand them. And I do understand their frustrations, and more importantly, I understand their fears. But the project cannot stop for individuals, I'm afraid. We have to look at it in the whole, about what Darlington means and how Darlington market will be successful. And there will be new traders coming in. And there won't be, we won't have any national multiples in there or anything. These will be good, independent, local businesses, probably from within a 25, 30-mile radius of Darlington. So things will change. The fabric, the tangible fabric will change and improve. And the intangible, which is the offer, and some of those traders will change as well. And that's what happens. I've been doing this for too long. I don't know how many markets I've redeveloped, but a lot of the traders will rise to the occasion, the existing ones, and some of them will leave. And that's what happens. So it's nothing that I'm not familiar with.
Okay, thank you. Any follow-up there?
Yeah, briefly, just on Raymond's point about some will rise to the occasion. Would you accept, Raymond, that actually some might not have the skill set to take on social media or adapt, but it's in your strategic interest that they're offering whatever it may be? I'm not going to name specific businesses. Having their offering in the market will give additionality and enhance the general offer, so part of it is down to you as the operator to work with them?
Absolutely. We will help those traders who are not, and I'm not particularly au fait with social media. This is my limit, really, what we're doing today. But we have people within our organisation who are experts in the field. We've just appointed somebody who is now assigned to Doncaster and Darlington, specifically and uniquely for promoting the markets using social media. And their job is not just to go and talk to traders and film them and publicise that, but encourage them to join in the social media campaigns, because that's how we get real coverage.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Raymond. Next, I have Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Chair. I've got just a thread of questions just to help maybe me and the committee understand what's been happening over the last few months, and it's really both to Raymond and to Mark. Can you set out how the decision was taken to move the outdoor market from its previous position to the market square? What the previous and current numbers of open market traders are, i.e. before lockdown and now, and how were the traders themselves involved in the decision?
Chair, through you, Councillor Wallace, is that about the outdoor market itself rather than the indoor market?
Yes, the outdoor market.
Yeah. Clearly, obviously, COVID has had a big influence as regards to how we can ensure that the social distancing achieved right along High Road and throughout the town. And so we took a view together with members and also other colleagues within the council to look at probably the most appropriate positioning of the outdoor market, and felt that we could ensure that there was a degree of social distancing which would allow a degree of circulation as well for people if those stalls were actually placed upon the market square itself. And I think it's an important fact that an ambition for us, and it always has been an ambition, is to very much to have the outdoor market almost part of the indoor market in a way that it's not two different entities, that it almost wraps around the indoor market. So you will have in front of you, if you were walking down High Road, that impression of a really vibrant market area, which is both indoor and outdoor rather than two discrete or distinct areas of market activity, that one being down Northgate as it was prior to lockdown, and what we're trying to achieve now, which is the use of the market square. But our ambition, our overall ambition, and I'm sure Raymond and his colleagues are working on this, is to attract more market stall holders so we can have that wraparound feel around the indoor market as well. So it gives you that one type of market offer, which is both internal and external. But again, with regards to the metrics on the number of current stall holders, if I could pass that over to Raymond, if that answers your question, Councillor Wallace.
Just briefly, you talk about sort of discussions within the council around with members, officers. Can you just touch on how the market traders themselves were consulted and involved in the decision?
I believe we did consult them, and I'm looking at my colleague Mike Crawshaw. I believe did have a number of conversations and to explain the situation as regards to why they needed to move. So if I probably could ask Mike to clarify your specific question, Councillor Wallace.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you, Chair. If I could just come in. Yes, I, as part of the recovery plan for the return to trading in the town centre, not just for markets, but for retail and hospitality as a whole, one of the strands of that was the relocation of the regular outdoor market from Northgate to the market square. Mark's outlined some of the points there. I met with Richard Gibbons from Raymond's team, who leads his operations. I meet with him regularly, and I met with the National Market Traders Federation local rep, a lady called Angie Smedley, who we worked with over lots of years. So we met with her on site. I've met with her on several occasions in the market square. We met prior to relocating the outdoor market to the market square, and we've met with her subsequently on site as well, Nick.
And what was forgive me, Chair, what was the feedback, Mike, from the open market traders?
They've been very frank about the feedback, Nick, at the outset. Angie understood the rationale for it, but didn't agree with the decision. And I think that's a fair summary. It wasn't her preferred option for her and her traders, but she understood the rationale. So we went through a lot of detail there. We did look at some other locations in the town, but certainly the driver at the time there, or one of the key drivers, was the public health imperative. So
just to forgive me, Chair, again. So it was overwhelmingly a health and safety in terms of COVID decision to move the open market, Mike, I gather from what you and Mark have said. Is that still the case? I.e., is it impossible for the open market, either to be wrapped around, and I'll come back to that in a moment, or to be around the market, or to be on High Road Northgate? Is that simply impossible, or was this a temporary measure?
I don't know if it's impossible, Nick, but in terms of striking the right balance for applying the recommendations around COVID and enabling traders to trade safely and their customers to be able to access markets safely, the Market Square absolutely provided the best option spatially for that. I realise there will always be an element of debate, subjectivity around what is the best trading area, but certainly in terms of the space, the Market Square provides that.
And that's still the case. You wouldn't ever have the market, because of COVID, back on High Road or back on High Road Northgate, all wrapped around the market. Is that what you're saying, Mike?
No,
it's a permanent move.
No, that's not what I'm saying. No, I'm giving you an outline for the rationale for that. I realise that there are lots of different factors here, some of which are to do with safety in the COVID situation, but I also realise there are factors around the development, as Mark outlined, of markets, the physical development, and what happens there in the town. So no, I'm not saying that. I'm just giving you an outline of how that decision was taken at the time.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Next, I have Councillor Cousins.
I didn't get an answer, Chair, on the numbers, which Raymond was going to come back on. I've got further questions, and I'll put my hand up again because I need to follow. There's some other points I need to follow through. So I'll put my hand up again, and others can come in.
Okay, we'll pass to Raymond, but I think he'd already said that he didn't have the numbers on capacity at the moment, didn't he? Well, with regards to the indoor market, so it might be a similar answer for the outdoor. Raymond?
I don't have the figures on the outdoor. We do have those figures. I don't have them during this meeting. But I'd just like to add one thing. I am commercial. We're in this to try and provide a commercially successful venture. And my personal view is it does not make too much commercial sense to invest in an asset, which is the indoor market, and have an outdoor market, which is remote. It always makes sense to me, even if there's some short-term pain, to try and get everything together and to act as one.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to Councillor Cousins, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of things, please. Councillor Allen touched on the £300,000. I don't think she was given an answer to that, but I also want to ask about the 1.8 million investment. Is this the 1.8 million from the money, again, like Councillor Allen had mentioned, that was a loan from Darlington Borough Council, taxpayers' money? And the other thing, Councillor Wallace, is just mentioning the outdoor market. Can you just tell me how, footfall to the Market Square has improved and traders' sort of financial, the impact on the traders financially, has that improved by it being relocated, albeit temporary, to the outdoor Market Square, the Market Square? Thank you.
Chair, Mark here, Chair. I'll probably pick up the first bit as regards to the financial questions that Councillor Cousins has asked. Members will be aware that there is a £1.8 million loan facility. Bearing in mind it is a loan, so the interest comes with that loan. And Raymond is quite right that all of the money that has been spent on the improvements, which is also including a lot of the preliminary works, which is the planning application, your structural engineers, your heritage statements, all of the things that you know cost a lot of money, but you don't often see the end product there because it's all the prelim work has been drawn down from the loan. And just for an update, members, Councillor Allen contacted me yesterday. It's just over £400,000 has been drawn down, and that is for all the preliminary works that needs to be done from the 1.8 million. But bearing in mind, Chair, if I may, for members, this is a loan. It is, you know, it's not free money. It is a commercial loan to Market Asset Management, of which they're using to actually invest into our market, even though they have a 99-year lease. And I think Raymond did touch upon the issue that the fact he doesn't have the metrics at hand as regards to the footfall figures and etc. But I'm sure he can answer that better than I can.
As Mark says, it is a loan. My head on the block, and it's a significant loan, and we will be going up to the 1.8 million. It's definitely not free money. Going back to trade, I've never known a trader tell me the truth about how much they take, whether they're trading well or they all trade very badly, every trader in the world. So I'm not sure we can get too much sense out of them that way. What I can say is that we are experiencing higher levels of new traders coming on to the outdoor market, where it is at the moment, and they keep coming back. So I presume that they are sort of trading reasonably well.
I think there was a question on footfall there to the out. Yeah.
Sorry, I came on this meeting to talk about the development. I don't deal on a day-to-day basis with footfall. Very happy to answer those, as you said earlier, Chair. We can get some answers together for you within the week.
Please, thank you. Any follow-up, Councillor Cousins?
No, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next. Apologies, I had myself on mute and I was writing. Councillor Durham there.
Thank you, Chair. There's a couple of questions, and these are directed at Raymond, but first of all, I'd just like to make a comment in which I totally concur with Councillor Cully's comments with regards to, we go back to the lease was signed in September 2017. There was an indicative design on what this market would look at, and we're now 3 years later on, and we haven't seen any changes. Going back to, if I can just understand how the people of Darlington will benefit. There's obviously within any contract, any partnership, there has to be value on both sides. Now, the way I see it, there could have been two options here from the very outset. Quarterbridge or Market Asset Management could have acted as consultants to Darlington Borough Council, both on the build and the ongoing management. But we've now got a solution, which is obviously Market Asset Management. Effectively, are the tenants are going to improve the building and obviously manage that building as part of your business model. Now, in the middle, comparing those two options, where we're at this moment in time, how will the people of Darlington benefit more from the model which we have over a consultancy-based model?
Could I probably try to answer Councillor Durham to begin with, and then I'm sure Raymond again will jump in with that, Chair, if that's okay.
Yep.
Yeah. I've worked around and managed markets through a local authority position for a number of years, and to be fair, and being a resident of Darlington, one has seen the I suppose the downward type of direction of the indoor market over the last 10 years, and I think that when members made the decision to actually employ Market Asset Management, as the tenant of the market. It was because they are, you know, their expertise and specialism is in running markets, which is quite a, it's quite a demanding and challenging area to actually manage for many reasons. And clearly, I wasn't here when the tender process was actually carried out. But over certainly the last 12 months, I've been given more reassurance that the project that members have been presented with today is something that's going to really change the market for the good. And so that I'm very supportive of the action that was taken. That Market Asset Management are probably in the best position to ensure that we bring this forward as a real, I suppose, you know, gem for the town. So what is it in it for members of or communities within Darlington? Well, first of all, it's about, I'm sure all members read the Northern Echo or Facebook or Twitter pages with regards to the real close affinity that people have of the town centre. We only have one town centre in Darlington, and the passion that people show for the town centre and how it works and how it looks, you know, is quite unbelievable. And so therefore, if we have something which is of real civic pride, that we are, you know, assured that this particular work will bring forward, I think that it brings something, you know, exceptional for the communities of Darlington Borough. Not only that, it also offers the opportunity to take advantage of the various types of food and beverage and hospitality, but likewise the quality market traders that we have here. So there's a number of real benefits. Other benefits are then the knock-on issues. As you get more people into the town, the more vibrancy, the more chance you've got an increase in the number of independents, because the chances of large national and international retailers beginning to either expand or locate in particular areas is you know, it is not very likely that will happen. So it's about increasing the vibrancy, it's about increasing the flow, it's about increasing the diversity that we have to offer within Darlington. And that for me is something that I'm really passionate about, that the indoor market and a vibrant outdoor market can bring to the town. So, but I'll pass over to Raymond if you want to add anything.
Yeah, no, there are some important points. Your question was really interesting, actually. Why should you not have continue with us on a consultancy basis as opposed to providing the lease? Which we do both, believe me. If it would be on a consultancy basis, you would have had to pay us, and you would have had to incur the trading losses that we have incurred for the last few years. So there's a financial benefit, I suppose, by us entering into a lease and taking on the financial responsibility. The most important, I think, for the council and the people of Darlington is that whatever we are designing and specifying and pre-letting and business planning, we're doing it because we're on the hook. You know, we are on the hook for the remainder of the 99 years less 3 or whatever it is. So we have to get it right. Consultancy is a lot easier. You know, you just get paid for what you do, and if it goes wrong, you carry on sleeping at night. But here, you know, we are 100% on the hook to get this right. So in that direct answer, not only have you got a partner, you've got a partner who's quite nervous about making mistakes. So, you know, that's what I would add to that. And it works out cheaper for you as well.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Raymond. Just two more points. There's talk about the drawdown. I was just wanting to understand the mechanisms for that. And then the final question is, you obviously talk about there you're in terms of the lease. Can you, Raymond, can you give us a commitment that you know, this will be, as far as you can, this will be delivered, and Market Asset Management will be around in 5 years' time?
Yeah, of course. Now, first of all, the drawdown mechanism. We have a contract administrators, RJA consultants, who are basically the surveyors for the job. Every month, was it 3 weeks, I can't remember, we receiving invoices from the professional team, the architects, the engineers, mechanical, electrical engineers, the surveyors or whatever. First of all, RJA have a look at those, make sure they're okay. Then they're sent to me. I look through them, make sure they're okay. And then they're sent in on what's called evaluation, and that's sent over to the council for them to say, yes, that's okay. And then that money is drawn down. And then once we receive the money, then those sub-consultants are then paid. So that's the actual mechanism. And as Mark said earlier, there is a running total, and it's 100% totally transparent. The lease, I have been hands-on. Perhaps I should have got involved earlier. Right? Perhaps that's a fault on my part. Things were not going as they should have done. I asked to have got involved in this in November last year, and I don't normally do this work anymore. This is what I used to do for a living. I now am the managing director for all of the various sites. So I've gone back, if you like, to site development. And I've taken it on personally to deal with this one, along with Hayden Ferraby and the team, because believe in Darlington. No, I don't want to be here in 5 years. I still want to be here in 20 years, certainly well beyond my retirement. So we are, I think Mark will probably testify to this, we are totally committed. We are on the hook. I changed the designs. I changed the ethos of what this market should be from my own lifetime of experience in the industry. And what we're going to deliver in Darlington is something that will stand the test of time. And we'll redevelop it again in 20 years. You don't just do it for once. My biggest claim to fame is I did a video, it was on news last week in Doncaster Fish Market, that I built 27 years ago, and it still looks absolutely fantastic, although that's coming up for a refresh too.
Thank you, Raymond. Really appreciate those answers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Have Councillor Wallace back on next.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just to return to the open market, last year we had a presentation, Raymond, by your predecessor, by Jonathan, and Councillor Marshall was giving evidence as well. And we touched on the potential move of the open market then to the market square. And Jonathan's view was very clear that it would be really wrong to do that in business terms, because the open market simply wouldn't survive on that site. The footfall is absolutely wrong now in the current configuration of Darlington Town Centre for that to work. And he said the best that could be achieved would be to wrap around the market, the open market, around the covered market. But it was really only when the covered market itself was up and running properly, then would be the time to move the open market, because the synergies then support changed since then. Clearly COVID has taken place, but in terms of the business decision, I'm interested in that. Mike understandably wasn't able to answer whether this is a permanent move or whether it's a temporary move, and maybe Mark can assist us on that, whether this is going to change or whether we're going to stick with this. Mark, when you were explaining how this decision was taken, it sounded very much like a council decision. Maybe Raymond can just outline how far MAM were involved in it. And finally, to turn back to Mike, one of the big issues around moving the open market back to the market square was always around the programme of activities, and that really it wasn't feasible to move the open market because it would disrupt the activities programme that was really keeping, not only supporting the town centre, but particularly supporting the other businesses around the town centre, around the market square. I just wonder whether officers can, and Raymond can comment on those points, and can I get an answer to permanent or temporary?
Okay, plenty of repetition now. We'll allow one question, that permanent question, to be asked to Mark once, and then if you'd like to address the other questions, please.
Was that to me, Chair? Was it? Sorry.
The permanent market question.
Sorry, I just lost you for a second, that's all. Yeah, I mean, the historical positioning of the market is on the market square, and bearing in mind, I wasn't at the meeting where Jonathan gave the presentation. I don't believe Councillor Wallace, but obviously he has a view as regards to his own professional view on what type of business case actually floats and what doesn't. I suppose necessity is the mother of invention here, because we needed to move the market because of COVID-19. So at present, I don't see a great deal of things changing in the foreseeable future. And if the market is going to be positioned within the market square, let's make the best of that particular circumstances. So it's about ensuring that not only social media is correct and it's very high profile, but I know Mike and his team have done a lot of work in regard to ensuring that signposting is put into place for where the market's going to be. And I know that there's been various types of street entertainment, which has been trying to pull people to the market square. Bearing in mind that a lot of the work that Raymond has outlined today will be commencing in January time. And I don't have a crystal ball, but I doubt that a lot of the social distancing legislation or requirements will have changed within the next 6-9 months. So that gives the opportunity then of ensuring that that outdoor market forms an integral part of the work that's happening within the indoor market. So you get that overall presentation. As regards to the events, and again, unfortunately, COVID-19 has put a stop to the lot of the the really ambitious events program that Mike and his team had pulled together. But they're working around that in the best way possible. And I know Mike's got his hand up, and I'm sure he'll quite happily share how he is trying to overcome some of those issues.
Mike, if you want to come in there.
You're on mute, Mike. You're on mute.
Apologies. Thank you, Chair. Just very briefly, obviously because of the necessity of the COVID situation, we've tried to reimagine this year's programme in a different way. You've obviously seen some of that with what we've tried to do with the pavement cafes and the entertainment surrounding that. There's a lot more of that to come through the autumn, and we're planning for Christmas. I'm working very closely with Raymond's team, with Richard Hopkins and the social media lead, David Shaw, that Raymond referred to earlier, meeting them again on Tuesday of next week, around what our Christmas markets are going to look like, how we're going to do things in a different way, obviously without mass gatherings. So there's lots of animation and entertainment planned between now and Christmas, and then we'll just work as per government guidelines for the next calendar year. So there's lots happening there, and it means that we're not using that one space in the market square this year for mass gatherings. We would absolutely hope to in the future, but I think we've got to be flexible with our programming. We've got to respond to the situation. So that's the way we've tried to approach it.
Thanks, Mike. And Councillor Wallace, unless you have something new, I'd like to move on from that. Feel free to continue the discussion offline and share with us the results. So next I have Councillor Allen, please.
Thank you, Chair. Going back to very basics, for myself, I've always had to live well within a budget. So I'm not into big business, but Mark alluded earlier to the council not having the expertise. Therefore, we put things out to tender, and subsequently MAM were successful. Now, we didn't have any expertise on climate change either, and yet we still managed to locate and then take on our own climate change expert. Why did we not do the same? Why did we feel as an administration at that time that we needed to look outside for everything? My concern is that we are giving MAM carte blanche, and our local traders not the ones that are going to come in from far and wide with their vans full of equipment, but our local traders are the ones that are going to suffer. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Chair. I'll try to answer that as best I can. The issues that local government have faced over the last 10 years, right across the country, has been one of prioritisation and ensuring that services can still be delivered. And so, therefore, it comes to a point where you have to look at what is really some of your, I suppose, core services and what you're good at. And this hopefully doesn't sound too glib. If we were good at it, it wouldn't have been in the position that it was in 2015, 2016, which was underinvested. There was a lack of expertise in taking it forward. So therefore, it was probably best and the most appropriate, I suppose, decision is to look elsewhere across the marketplace for that expertise to actually lift up the market to something that that everybody can be proud of. So it's not necessarily. I wouldn't necessarily say that we farm everything out, because we certainly still manage our leisure centres, we still manage our theatres, etc. Sometimes it's horses for courses, and this is a particular expertise of which we felt that market asset management had they certainly had the track record to show that there was a degree of confidence in them in actually achieving this.
If I may, please, Chair, if I may come back on that. I don't have a problem with market and asset management per se. What I have a problem with is you say we didn't have the expertise. Why did we not find our expertise? Because ultimately, any profits that this market makes are not going to go back into the pockets of Darlington. They are going to go into the pockets of MAM. Rightly so, they're the ones that are managing it, etc., etc. But my point was, why did we, as our administration back then, not deem it necessary to hire the required expert to do this for us and keep it in-house?
Can I bring Councillor Marshall in here? He's just put his hand up.
Could I just say that I don't think the scrutiny committee is here to judge decisions that were taken in 2017. I think the decision that was taken to appoint Mount were taken at the time on the facts that are available. It's fact, it is in place. I don't think it's proper or worthy of discussion to discuss a decision that was taken 2 years ago. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Mark, do you have anything to add to that?
No, Chair, forgive me, but I wasn't in position when the tender exercise actually happened. But I can fully understand the rationale behind that, and I think we've probably got an exceptional outcome from that.
Okay, thank you. I have Councillor McCollum.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to go back to what Raymond presented at the very beginning, and he talked about what Darlington deserves from its markets. Now, Darlington is proudly known as a market town, and as a born and raised Darlingtonian, I take great pride in that. But going back to the points that Councillor Wallace has made, in recent years, the outdoor market, and particularly recent weeks and months, the outdoor market has suffered as it has moved to the market square. Having spoken to my fair share of the traders, if not all, they are very dissatisfied with the location, as officers will be aware. Unfortunately, nothing has been done. The move 13 years ago to High Road necessitated the implementation of anchor points for the gazebos. There is no such infrastructure there on the market square. Traders are left to self-erect, and there has been, to my mind, not a great deal of support in this. I just wondered, obviously the presentation that was given was predominantly about the indoor market, and there's lots of pictures, and the ambition is certainly there, but I wondered if officers or market asset management would like to set out their long-term vision for the outdoor market in a similar fashion, so that traders can have some reassurance, because speaking to traders, they're looking elsewhere. other markets such as Stockton, Stanley, Redcar, Thornaby are very attractive to local traders. And I'll be quite honest in that I do not want a single trader to leave our town. We have to build from the ground up and retain what we have, high caliber or however you perceive them. Our traders are our own. So I wondered, will you agree to set out a long-term vision and work with traders to achieve that? Thank you.
Hello.
Thank you, Councillor.
Okay, Chair, to continue?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate all of those points, and yes, we will. We will develop a long-term strategy. My personal view, which is, I said earlier, is that the market should be a market, not two markets, geographically distant. There have been some efforts made, and I think Mike will agree with this, on directional signage, and those efforts perhaps need to be increased to make sure that people know where to find the outdoor market. Whether the outdoor market stays on marketplace or wraps round, I don't know that. We're certainly willing to listen to views. It certainly can't be on the marketplace if there's an event going on, but that's just a question of collaboration with officers. But yeah, that's a good point actually. We will develop up a strategy for the outdoor market to sit alongside the indoor market strategy, not, and give us a month on that if we may.
Okay, thank you, Raymond. I have Councillor Durham.
Thank you, Chair. This is a question for Raymond, and it might be for Mark as well. And I appreciate might not be able to give me the answer. Now, we're talking about obviously the outdoor market, and it complements the indoor market, and the one and the two, as you said, are the same. Now, you talked about social media, Raymond, and obviously you said that you're not an expert, and a lot of us aren't. We're glued to it at times. There's a lot of positivity on social media in terms of the market and the market square, and me being cynical, a lot of that are probably people who've never been to the town, never been to the market in absolutely years. But there is that positivity there. Have you has market asset management felt that?
Yes, there is. We like to think, with our new recruit, David Shaw, that will benefit from that. And I think I'm learning as well during this call. I think there is obviously a lot of concern about the outdoor market. I have my own commercial opinions of it, but I think we perhaps need to listen very carefully to what's going on in the town centre. And I would now say that within the outdoor market strategy, the long-term one, we will also include some anecdotal evidence of what's been happening in the past and how that ties in with social media going forward. Most of the social media is done on Facebook, and since David Shaw's appointment about 3 months ago, actually, he has taken Doncaster Wool Market to be the most popular market in the UK on Facebook. And that is something that obviously we don't want to do today for Darlington, but come the launch of phase 1 in just a few months' time, that will be up there as well.
Councillor.
Thank you, Raymond. And I've got no further questions, and I'd just like to say thank you to Raymond personally in the way that you've responded to the questions this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And I have Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Chair. Just one final one for Mr. Lynch, if I may. You mentioned a couple of moments ago that you've actually incurred losses since you've taken over the market. Do you have any figures for that? And do you know how you have managed to incur those losses at all? Thank you.
Yes, I think so far, well, it's certainly in six figures. I don't know exactly, but it sits between 100 and 200,000, and it's purely from trading losses. Our income is less than our expenditure. And that is purely on the trading activities of the indoor and the outdoor market. That does not include anything to do with the development, which, sorry to bore you, but is a balance sheet item rather than a trading item. But we've known that. You know, we've known that we were, you know, and one of the reasons you offloaded, if you like, the market was to stem those losses. And we've absorbed those, and we've mitigated as far as we can, and occasionally, you know, in some months we have to make a small surplus. But overall, part of our investment has been not only the drawdown, if you like, for the actual development itself, which is pigeonholed, but our own, from our own pockets, some trading losses, literally from having more operating costs than our income from the traders.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your patience with all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Cully, Mrs. Cully.
Thank you, Chair. Just a small point. I spend a lot of time liking and sharing anything that the markets do on Facebook. And whenever it's mentioned that there's a market in the market square, so many people will say, it's in the market square, it belongs in the market square, about time you put it back in the market square. So, and we also have residents who spend a lot of time telling me that they want it in the market square. So I would like that just to be included when you make your decision about whether it's going to stay there or not, because people like it there. It's not called a market square for nothing, but it is if there's no market in it. Thank you.
Can I just come back on that, Chair?
Of course.
Our livelihood depends on trader income. Their livelihood depends on shoppers. So ultimately, whenever we design something or move something, it's actually for shoppers. Because if we get more shoppers and higher footfall, traders trade better and they pay their rent. So the comment from Councillor Cully about public opinion from people in Darlington where they like to see things, which is part of our decision-making process, is extremely pertinent.
Okay, thank you. I have no more councillors from the committee other than myself with questions, but I do have Councillor Lee with his hand up, so I'll allow him to come in for briefly.
Thank you very much. Much appreciate that. Fascinating questions to the scrutiny committee. Very, very well done. Mine is a much more fundamental one, Chair. Darlington has been said, we've had an indoor and outdoor market for since Adam was born. And it's been very well used, it's been vibrant, and it's brought in a lot of people from other areas. But it has seen a decline in the last 10, 15 years, as we all know. But at the same time, as has already been mentioned, we do have markets in and around Darlington, in North Yorkshire and beyond, which are thriving. So, Mr. Lynch, in your decision to move into Darlington, what is it, or how is it, have you done research, or within your own experience, why has Darlington declined as bad as it has, both indoor and outdoor, and what can you do to bring that trade back to indoor and outdoor market, so we restore our market as we all wish to aim for? Thank you, Chair.
Very, very good question. Personally, I don't think there will be such a thing as a local authority market in 15, 20 years. Local authorities are very good at dealing with many, many things. But, you know, I grew up on the market, and in those days it was easy. I grew up in the East End of London, and there weren't even any supermarkets where I worked in Hackney. The nearest one was 5 miles away. The landscape has changed, but local authorities are not retailers. And for a market the size of Darlington, that proof is in the pudding, really. The markets that we tend to acquire are markets that local authorities wish to privatise, dirty word perhaps, because they are losing money. And all of the things that I've tried to put across to you today during the presentation, which I think is extremely strong, and the development I think is very strong, and the way that we manage the markets and the way that we promote and select the traders and enforce regulations on housekeeping for traders means that shoppers who won't go into the market, it's dirty and it's smelly and it's bad service and it's never open and all the rest of it, who are used to going to supermarkets, shop horror, because they know it's bright and it's clean and it's safe and it will be open. We have to attract those people because the retail landscape has totally changed, and it's changed completely over the last 6 months as well as the last 20 years. And that is why, with a few exceptions, for example, Manchester is a very good market service, but Leeds isn't good. And several in London are pretty awful. But it's not really your speciality. Your speciality are more important things. You know, health and transportation and welfare and social care and those type of things. Local authorities don't tend to have internal expertise to keep up with the moving landscape that we call retail. Whereas, you know, we don't employ any market managers from municipal markets. They all come from private retail. They come as supermarket managers and things like that because they're used to cleanliness, hygiene, traders being open on time, that type of. So it's a different standard that we practice. We try to.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And I have one question you'll be glad to hear, and that is just if you could briefly quantify what you mean by, or basically quantify what the market will become profitable means. If you have any ballpark figures or estimations.
Again, I haven't got that available now. We can, if you wish. It's not megabucks. There will be enough surpluses to cover the servicing of the loan, which is from you, which I believe is 1.8%, and I believe that's 4%. Or 0.5% interest, and modest surpluses. But I'm very happy to share the forward forecasting with you, but I think I'd like that I don't really want that in the public domain. I don't know if there's a way of achieving that, but I'm very happy to share that if you wish.
If that's commercially sensitive, it would appreciate sharing with the committee, but with a proviso.
Yeah.
Okay, I have no more questions on that. So, in conclusion, we have 3 questions that we'd like the answers to, which are the capacity of market traders current, the footfall figures, and also if we could look at that forecast, please, and recommendations. It would be good if this committee could have sight of the outdoor market strategy as soon as possible, please. So I'd like to propose that conclusion, if anyone would like to second that. Okay, and a show of hands, please. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Raymond, for coming and putting some meat on the bones for that presentation. It was very helpful. And thank you also to the Cabinet members for also attending. Anyone in resources and those Cabinet members, you're welcome to log out now. In terms of everyone else, I'm going to suggest a 5-minute intermission just to grab drinks or whatever, and then we'll get back online at 11:38, please. Okay? We're going to stop the live transmission for 5 minutes.
Thanks, Chair.